And inside of that, what we didn't do, and it's not a judgment of us, because I have a lot of compassion for us, we didn't figure out how to protect ourselves. First of all, number one, I actually did not know what 990s were before all of this happened.
It's confusing.
So part of the
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode. And on this episode, we are going to talk about Black Lives Matter and a couple other things after we get back. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope everybody had a great holiday. It has definitely been a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Always good to see you, beautiful people. So, as you saw in the beginning clip, was the founder of Black Lives Matter, Patrice, and she was doing an interview with out there at I think it's Vashon Art Center. And as you heard in the clip, she made the statement that she did not know what this IRS form was. And she also stated about the education part that the group was not well educated in regards to all the legalities, financials, and so forth. So I want to talk about that in particular and how that correlates with when you're building any type of enterprise, whether it be a nonprofit or for-profit. And excuse me, as you know, I've been speaking about brands off and on. That's because that is the class that I'm just now finishing up, corporate brands. And one of the things that we follow this past week, the past 2 weeks actually, that we've been working on is how does a brand fail? Why does a brand fail? How does a brand build itself back up after it fails? What are some of those pieces? Listening to that commentary right there, what I hear is the founders of BLM had great intentions. They still do. Yet, all of the I's were not dotted, and all the T's were not crossed. And my experience with nonprofit organizations has been similar to that. Whenever I have been involved, and I can say I've been involved in two, where I was on their board and I left because of these very things. People do not make sure that they're following all the rules to make sure that the nonprofit is steering away from things that could be risky or things that could come back to bite the members on the board financially. Because when you are doing a nonprofit, you're taking people's money. You're saying, we need money for this cause. We don't have enough money for ourselves. So pitch in. And a lot of people pitched in for the Black Lives Matter movement because it was a great movement. It had great intentions, and the time frame that it came in there, and it brought a lot of issues to the front. It made people who didn't want to look at what was happening to Black people in regards to the confrontation between a police officer and a Black person. And those things are still going on, yet they're not being pushed to the front as they were during that time frame, because I believe all the publicity and noise that has risen from these incidents, news media realizes they had a part in sensationalizing the information. When building a brand, whether it be a profit or for nonprofit, one of the challenges is, first off, getting everything in order, making sure that you follow all the necessary things. Now, a lot of times, and I'm guilty of it too, we get out here and we see something so exciting, we don't want to waste another day learning another piece because of fear of too much information. It can paralyze you. So we hold back. Yet sometimes we need to hold back. And even if we don't hold back, we need to push that pause button, especially when we see an influx, a heavy flow of finances. Because the IRS is not going to play with you. They're just not. And the publicity that is coming at BLM right now is not just about the fact that they messed up on their accounting. You have an organization that managed to raise millions of dollars. That wasn't all Black people that donated. When you raise money like that, that means you've got a diverse amount of people, probably even people who are in the top C-suites of corporate America that are pouring money into this organization. And that is why the spotlight is on them, because they are a threat. They accomplished great things. They raised awareness about what was happening to Black people. They got people to join in the movement. They got people all across the United States and in some places across the world. And they raised a significant amount of money. That's a threat. That's the bottom line. That is a huge threat to those that be. So, especially, well, Fox News is predominantly on the right. So those that are on the right is where a lot of this backlash is coming from. And when you look at other brands that, let me back up. So part of our assignment this week was also looking at the brands and why they failed. Brands like Coca-Cola. If you've been around since 1985-ish, and in your teen years, you remember Coca-Cola tried to change their formula. There were other incidents, other brands that Abercrombie and Finch had a brand issue. Who else? We've got, so many. I can't even think off the top of my head. But we had to look at these. I chose General Motors for my review. And what we were looking for in this critique, this analysis of the branding, why did these brands fail? What happened to the leadership, to the messaging? Where did they go astray? And let me take as I just dug into the General Motors situation, what I learned during 2008 was when everything came to a head with General Motors. If you may remember, that was the big financial crisis, the crunch, all the financial markets tumbled, and Lehman Brothers, they went out, they were sold and picked apart. And General Motors went to the United States government and took out a loan for about $20 billion, with a B, billion, because they were in a financial crunch, and the government gave them the loan. The company still filed for bankruptcy, which I find interesting. You know, if I borrowed $20 billion and I filed for bankruptcy, I did good. Okay, I did real good. But anyway, they filed for bankruptcy. And as I was reading through the reports of what the company came out and said, this didn't happen overnight. This happened over several tax seasons where the company's profits were eroding away. And the company had what we call brand extensions. It wasn't just making cars, it was making loans, it was doing construction, it had capital placed in a number of places in different brands. And at some point during these years, it was brought to the leadership's attention that they may want to reevaluate their strategy on their brand extensions, yet they chose to move forward. And during that time, GMAC was their lending arm, and GMAC was lending money to mortgage home buyers who were taking out mortgages. And from what I understand, that was the last straw. That was that, it was already at its capacity and what it could hold, their whole ecosystem of the company. And when the housing market came crashing down due to overextended lending and loans, then the company had no choice but to file for bankruptcy because they had to pay out, or they had basically run through all their capital. And so that left a bad taste of General Motors in the consumer's mind. So their brand suffered, not because they made a bad product. Their brand suffered because they made bad decisions. So in this particular case with BLM, what I see is the company doesn't have a bad product, and the company really hasn't made bad decisions. They have not armed themselves with the information and surrounded themselves with the right team to be successful. And looking at that, a couple questions come to my mind as, for example, were those decisions made because of the founders felt we could do it on our own? We don't need to go out here and ask for anybody's help. We founded it. This is our baby. We're going to rock it. Or was it just things were moving so fast and they couldn't catch their breath, and they kept pushing, I'm going to get to it later, which organization comes into play. So, and looking at kind of the steps that they took, the BLM group obviously needed to step back and look at where they were moving to. And they already were in the crosshairs of the right wing because of the fact their name alone drew attention. If they were called blah, 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 nobody probably would have cared. But because they gave the words Black lives and matter in one phrase, it raised eyebrows and everybody had to jump on board. So they already had a bad start out the gate, even though they had great intentions. So in looking at that, now that Patrice, I believe she has moved on to other things, it's unclear who's running the organization, but there is information that the organization has funds sitting somewhere, whether it be in a bank. There are funds sitting somewhere. Where are they? And what are they being used for? Are they being used? Have they been used up? Excuse me. Have they been used up? All these are valued questions, and I believe there's a book, so maybe there's some answers in the book. I don't know. Yet, if the brand wants to stick around, they're going to need to build a different strategy. And they're going to need to step up to the plate and communicate and be transparent with the public. Because right now, the public has also stepped in and began to cry out, where the money at? I donated. Where's the money at? What's it going to? What you using it for? X, Y, and Z. These are valid questions. You are a nonprofit. You got to answer to it at some point. You got to answer to it at some point. So, moving on. Next on my discussion today, I'm not going to show any videos or clips from it. If you want to see it, you can just look it up. I'm sure most of you have heard about one YouTuber by the name of Tasha K and the battle or entanglement, shall we call it? Entanglement sounds good. The entanglement that she had with Cardi B regarding words that Tasha K stated on her YouTube channel regarding Cardi B. So the other day, Tasha K was interviewed by T.S. Madison. T.S. Madison now has a show on Fox Soul, and it airs, a segment of it aired on YouTube. And I did watch the interview only because I had seen another YouTuber make comments about what was said and her take on how everyone was treating Tasha K, and she expressed the fact that Tasha K may be getting a bad rap, or people may be looking at Tasha K like a bad person because of what she said, and she is a businesswoman and dot, 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 dot. And so I wrote my comment on the video, and what I basically said is, I don't believe that everyone thinks that Tasha K deserves to fail. Yet I do believe people like myself agree that she needs to own and be held accountable for what she said. If what she said was incorrect, if it was false, then she needs to be held accountable for it. As we all do, as we all can post and speak our minds and speak freely. And this kind of folds into my other class where we talk about digital abuse. And digital abuse is in many forms. In this particular form, I'm taking is not what we talked about in the class, which was basically digital abuse when you're in a relationship and someone digitally abuses you. Yet the digital abuse I'm speaking of is using your platform to say things about someone that you shouldn't say. I mean, just it's above and beyond commentary. It's above and beyond. Okay? Because I believe in karma. It will come back and bite you in the bum. It will. So as I was listening to this interview with T.S. and Tasha, I could hear in T.S. Madison's voice that there was the call to be remorseful, be humble for a moment, and take responsibilities for, hey, you fucked up. That's it. You oopsed. Okay? So just own it. Yet, Tasha K didn't take that road. And I understand why. She's got to stay in her persona, her image of what she projects on her YouTube channel. By taking a different persona, her audience is going to flutter. It's going to say, oh, okay, you ain't as bad as you think you was. I see. So that's all a part of branding as well. She wants to play the bad girl on social media, and with her group, nothing wrong with that. Just know if that's the road you're going to take, you got consequences. Now, I don't believe that her brand suffered a lot, because the way I see the YouTubers brand versus a celebrities brand, they are on different tiers, even though they have a lot of commonalities. I believe that if Tasha K was a part of a grander audience or organization, for example, if she was maybe a part of Warner Media, maybe a part of one of the top 6 conglomerate media owners, then it would have been a totally different outcome. They would have dropped her, because their pockets were going to get hit. Whereas in this case, her pockets all alone are going to get hit. Now, she says she's appealing it and that there's some other things to go through. The takeaway from this Tasha and Cardi incident, the biggest takeaway for me is the misuse of a platform. We all have a responsibility to be mindful of what we're saying about people. And regardless of the fact on how Cardi B comes out and her persona, her entertainment persona, she's still a person. I mean, Tina Turner she'll tell you the person she was on stage was not the person she was off stage. When she stepped on stage, it was her persona. Cher, her persona. Any of those entertainers back, what I would consider the classic entertainers of the day, they understood that when I step on stage, I'm putting on a show for you. Whereas that seems to be blending. It's a gray line now with social media, because we're always posting up these videos and posting, everything we do, it's interconnected. And so attempting to see where your persona ends for the camera, where it begins, it's tough to see. There's a blind spot there. But either way you look at it, Cardi B's a human being. So when I was reading about the digital abuses cases and scenarios yesterday, this case kept coming up in my head because one of the things that Tasha K implied on the interview with T.S. Madison was she didn't necessarily believe Cardi B's feelings were hurt or it impacted Cardi B in any way. First off, unless you live in somebody's body like they do, there's no way you're going to know if what you say, how it impacts them. You got no idea. So to make the claim, it brings the attention to how little you know of yourself, you know of others. So if you don't know a lot about you, you know less about everyone else because we're all interconnected. We are all interconnected. We're all humans. We all have the same emotions. Some might be higher up on the scale than others, but we all are interconnected in some way. So to sit there and say, well, there wasn't nothing wrong with her. You can't say that. You can, yet you're incorrect because you're attempting to state you know how that person is feeling. And none of us know how someone is feeling unless they tell us how they're feeling. And Cardi B, hey, she spoke out and said, shut it down because it doesn't make me feel good and I don't like it. Now, the other part of this, Tasha made commentary about whether she had the $4 million or not. And of course, $4 million is a lot of money. Now, what went through my mind is, well, you gotta watch what you say, number one. Yet, how much money do you think Cardi B lost in endorsements? How many contracts do you think she got pulled out of? Because word got around to the higher ups that she was dealing with, trying to get her brand off the ground, trying to get her brand through the door, trying to get her brand up on that next level. And then all of a sudden, over here in the back door, somebody's talking junk about her brand. Higher ups are like, it's whether it's true or whether it's not, it is attached to us. So we have to cut ties. So Cardi B probably lost some money too because of Tasha. And if that's the case, I understand why Cardi B wanted that big chunk of money. In addition to all that, YouTubers have impacted the entertainment industry immensely. Okay. I was doing so good up until then. YouTubers have impacted the entertainment industry quite a bit. Therefore, they're a little spicy. And this is an example. Tasha is being held as the example of, okay, you want to talk junk about us. You want to be out there on Front Street. You want to dip in our pockets by, getting money from advertisers and endorsements and so forth. Well, then you got to play our game by our rules. And since you stepped over that line, we're taking you to court. We're going to make an example out of you. And then the fact that you are a black female, that's even more icing on their cake. The fact that your persona gets all the check marks, loud black woman, angry black woman, unknowing black woman, just pick one. You filled all the dots. All the boxes got checked off. So yes, they were going to make an example out of Tasha. That's all that's about. And they just happened to side with Cardi. That's it. That's all that's about. So, all in all, if you're building a brand and you want that brand to have long life, everything you do will have an influence on that brand. It may not be today, but down the road, whether that be financial decisions, whether that be speaking on a microphone or doing a talk show, or who you hang out with, or going and buying a car, whatever the case may be, there's always the potential that something you do will have a impact on your brand. So be mindful. That's not saying you got to walk around here and on eggshells. Yet, if you can handle the pressure, do you? There's always a diamond in the rough. That's why they put so much pressure on them, so you shine at the end. Yet, if you're in a position that could possibly take your brand out, just think before you act. That's all I'm saying. And for the Black Lives Matter group, they're going to come back. May not be under the same leadership team, but I do believe the brand is not done yet. So with that, ladies and gents, I bid you adieu, and I will see you next week. Peace.